Vispirms ļoti liels prieks tevi
I'm really
redzēt
glad to
šajā
see
rītā.
you this morning,
Gribēju teikt, ka tu izskaties
and I'd like to say that you
ļoti
look
labi.
very,
Ļoti,
very
ļoti
good.
simpātiski tu
You're
izskaties.
very good looking,
Tiešām
and
es tā vienmēr pārskatu.
I'm always just watching all of you.
Labi, jūs izskatāties.
You're looking
ļoti
very
labi,
good,
veselīgi,
very healthy,
dzīvelīgi,
and
ļoti turīgi.
alive, and
Jā, ir tā kā baumote, ka te jau nevar nākt, kurš
and
katrs
you
nemaz.
look
Te tikai
rich. And
tie
there are people who are
ļoti
saying that
turīgie
only
cilvēki
those who are
nāk
rich, they are
vēstīt.
coming here.
Lūdzu, tie, kas tic
Please,
katram
those
mācītāju
who are
vārdam,
believing each word that pastor says,
lūdzu, atcerieties, es
please
šobrīd
remember
nelasīju
that
Bībeli,
now I
es
was not
mēģināju-
reading Bible.
Mēģināju mazliet
I just tried to joke a little bit.
īpašs sveiciens visiem tiem, kas mūs
Greetings to
ir tieši
those who are
tiešsaistē
really watching us
pievienojušies.
online.
Zinu, tu Rēzeknē jūs esat,
And I know
mēs
there are
jūs
people in
mīlam,
Rēzekne, we
ļoti
love
labs
you,
iespējas no
And I really
pēdējās
had a good
viesošanās pie
impression
jums.
when I visited you
Reizes, un
last
tie,
time.
kas jūs esat kaut kur
And those of
citur,
you
nu,
who are
aiciniet,
somewhere
un
else,
arī būs labs iespējas.
you can
No
invite
jums.
me, and then I will
Kā lai
also
es-
have good
kā
impression
lai
of
es
you.
aizbraucu,
How
ja
can
jūs
I go there if
neaicināt?
you're not
Jā.
inviting me?
Bet mēs ļoti,
But
ļoti mīlam,
we
vienalga,
really
jūs esat tuvu
love
vai
each
tālu.
one of you, even if you
Ticam,
are
ka
close
Dievs
or
jūs
far,
svētī.
and we
Jā,
believe
jā,
that
es
God
tieši
is
tā
blessing you.
uzprasījos.
Yes, so
Jā,
I
tas
was
arī
asking
notiek.
to be invited there.
Kā mācītājs esmu bijis diezgan
As a
daudzās
pastor, I
bērnās.
have been in many
Un
funerals,
bērs no
and
bērniem
funerals,
parasti neatšķiras,
they
jūs
are
jau
not
zināt.
any different from each
Tev ir
other.
pienākums, tu
You know
iet,
that there is this
jāaiziet,
duty to
tas
be
prasa
there.
kāds minūtes,
I go there, it
45
takes around
stundai.
40 minutes to 1 hour,
Nu, tu pastāvi,
and then you
aizgājies
stand there.
guļ,
The one who is dead, he just
runā,
lays
mācītājs
there,
parasti,
and
vai kāds, kas
pastor
viņu
is
izved, vai
speaking
kā
something,
savādāk.
or maybe
Bet
somebody
viens
else.
bērs bija
But one funeral was
tāds
very
īpašs ar
special,
to,
and
ka
it was
tas
special
aizgājējs bija
because
atstājis man
the person
lapiņu
who
ar
went
tekstu, ko
away
viņš gribēja,
left
lai
the
es
letter
pasaku.
to me
Nu, lūk,
with
un
the
vienā no
wishes
tādām
that they wanted
bērēm-
to tell me. So in this funeral,
Vienā no tādām bērēm es saku, un tagad es
I said,
nolasīšu tos vārdus,
okay, so
kas
now I'll
aizgājējs
read those
grib,
words
lai
that
es jums pasaku.
the one who has died
Un tad
wants
viņš
to
sāka
tell.
ar to,
And he started with
man
this,
sieviņai.
my
Tu esi
wife,
bijis labākais, kas ar mani ir
you were the
noticis.
best that has
Un
ever
šobrīd, kad
happened
tu
to me.
klausies
And
manas
now when you're
vārdus, es
listening
stāvu
to
rindā,
these words, I'm waiting in
lai
a line
personīgi pateiktos
to say
mūsu
thanks
debes tēvam
to our
par
Heavenly
to, ka viņš
Father
man tevi ir
that
devis.
He gave me
Tad
to
viņš
you,
teica, lai es nododu
to me.
meitai vārdus.
And
Un
then
es lasīju
he asked
viņai
me to say
vārdus
words
mūsu
to
meitiņai. Tu esi
their
bijis mūsu
daughter.
prieks. Tu esi brīnums.
My daughter, you have been
Un tu
joy
esi
to me,
tāpēc, ka Dievs
and you
atbildēja
are
uz mūsu
because God
lūgšanām, uz
answered
mūsu
to our
ticību.
prayers, to our faith.
Un tad tur bija
And then
vārdi znotam.
there were words for
Un viņš lietoja apustuļu Pāvila vārdus, ko viņš
daughter's
lasīja,
husband, and then
rakstīja
he
Efeziešiem
used
4. nodaļā,
words from
17,
Ephesians
kur viņš teica
4:18,
tā,
where he said,
Mūsu meita, tava sieva ir brīnums.
my daughter, your wife
Mēs
is a miracle.
saņēmām viņu kā
We
brīnumu no
received
Dieva rokas. Un es tev piekodinu, tas kungs mans liecinieks.
her as a miracle from God's hand.
No Kristus.
And please
Bez
don't
tā, bez
don't
Kristus
take her away
viņa
from
nevar
Christ,
dzīvot.
because without Christ she cannot live.
Zinat, kad es lasīju šos vārdus,
When I was reading these words
tāds absolūts klusums.
in that chapel, it was silent, and my heart was beating.
Man nāca prātā tāds domas, ka
And I had these thoughts
kur vairs nepukstēja,
that heart that was not beating, it left words that were making other hearts beat more, and they were surprised, and they felt really responsible because they sounded very strongly. And then I had this thought, and they asked me, in which funeral was it? And actually I have to say that this funeral, I never had it. I just added some things what I hope it should be like. And I believe that believers shouldn't go away without something, some instructions, like last words from their lives, what was important for them. And the situation came to my mind when I was reading Joshua. And I was reading in Joshua about Achan. And then I saw the situation of Achan, and it was similar to this person who had some mistakes, some big mistakes in their lives. And then he wrote this teaching with his blood. Please don't go And don't make the same mistakes because the consequences are very hard. And you know that Achan, he made several mistakes, 3 of them, and we talked about them last Sunday. But today I would like to speak about the second one. But his mistakes, they costed him his life, the life of his kids, and his wife, and everything was destroyed. And he repented, and he couldn't change anything at the end, but he left those last words to you and me, for us who are still making decisions, and we can prevent making these mistakes. And why Achan? First of all, I think that there are many words that are being transformed during some years, some 1,000 years, like the one that we call Maria Magdalene. She was Maria from Magdal, and the one that we call as Peter, actually his name was Simon, the son of John, and Jesus called him Kepha, who is rock, and as Bible was written in Greek, 90% there they used name Petrus, which is rock, that is in Greek. And we didn't translate it into rock, because then we should say that first rock 2:24, but we still have this name Peter. We made it in Latvian, and it's now a Latvian name. And now we think that Peter, it's Latvian guy, even if it's a Greek name. And that's why this Rabbi Saul, who only in Acts 13 he was called Paul. And so words are being transformed to some years. And then I thought, did this Achan, maybe there is this initial A, and then Han is his surname. So I was thinking, and I can, that is too much, so I just stayed with these letters. So who is Achan? Maybe he was Andrew or Arvid or... Actually, there are so many words in Latvian that start with letter A. And then someone asked, John? Of course. Because in Latvia, that is name in the Bible, and it's also popular for some people. And every second man is John, and if you just stand in a bus at the end, then you will call John, and then 1/3 will turn back to you. They'll ask you, what do you want from me? So that can also be John. There are 3 things that Achan has written to us for us to be faithful. So what did he said in a wrong way? We can read it in Joshua chapter 7 in verse 21. I'll read Joshua 7:21. When I saw the plunder, a beautiful robe from Babylonia, in some other translation I read it's from Shinaria, from Mesopotamia. It was made by artists, and this robe, it belonged to very important, significant people. 200 shekels of silver and the bar of gold weighing 50 shekels. I coveted them and took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath. So, one good robe, 200 shekels of silver and a bar of gold. And I think it's really important, this reference that silver is the main thing. And that silver money, that silver money, is the beginning It explains all that reason why he made these mistakes. We will speak about those mistakes a little bit later. I just want to remind why this robe was really important. And in my opinion, that robe was something that was really valuable and something very expensive. And that Achan, Andrew, or John, or doesn't matter what his name is like, but he thought that in his robe he was not so respectful when he had this new robe. And then I had association with the world of artists. And maybe a lot of you have heard that today, for example, of course, I'm not so deep in those art things, but sometimes it sets me free so much. And I think if author is somewhere deep in somewhere and he doesn't know what is what in this world, then his masterpiece is not significant to me. A lot of people in the world, they don't think so. They think if he was more crazy, then people will pay even more for his masterpiece. And this is what we can learn from Achan, from his mistake. He took this masterpiece of this one artist and he thought that this is something mighty and something that is made. It cannot be toxic, that cannot bring something bad in his life, but it turned out that it's not like that. And I have heard that in world of artists, if you are a normal person with harmonic soul, and if you have been raised in good family, and if you have then you will not be successful. I want to say you have to be freak, but they are not calling it like that. But you have to be a rebel who is going over all boundaries, and if you are untraditional, then you have this potential to create art. And here I would like to say and invite you, where Achan is inviting us, please trust God, because He has this right source which has potential to create art, real art. And I would like to say that somebody has told us that Christians are the ones who are the most limited ones. But the truth is opposite. Christian is the one who is the most free. He can break all the limits of this world because he's living from heaven. He can take from the source which is God and presence of Holy Spirit. And that's why these two things, also trust God in this world of business and art and in creative things. Doesn't matter what sphere is it, like politics, or because He knows how and He can help you to reach those mountains that you need, and that also includes to be satisfied with your life, with your race, with the parents that you have, or I'm sorry if I'll say, maybe someone can misunderstand, to be satisfied with that orphanage where you were raised in. And I know how shortly I'll tell you a situation about one story that I read, and it's famous in the world, and he's a speaker who is teaching others how to speak to people, how to get their attention. And when he was asked, what has made you such good speaker? He said such words. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old.
atdots, lai man audzina tante.
I was given to my aunt. She was married for 6 times, and each time when my aunt was marrying, we went to different state, different city. I learned that since my childhood, there is no person that I don't like, because all the time environment was changing around me. Circumstances were changing, and some people would say that that's a trauma for life. My parents they divorced, and I was raised by aunt, and I haven't been growing in a harmonious environment. But he took this as a trampoline in his life, and he reached such heights, and that includes that be satisfied where you are and how you look and how old are you and how your family is like your spouse, and only this thankfulness, this gratitude can become a trampoline that can take you to such heights where you can't get by yourself. That was what Achan wanted us to know about the robe. And when you listen to the service that we had last Sunday, then it's for each situation of your life that there is word. And today we want to speak about this silver money, about 200 shekels. And they were a little bit more than over 2 kilos, and I thought this money of silver money, it speaks about daily life. It's not something big, it's not great money, but it's like for surviving. And I would like to remind you that Achan, he took this silver money because he was afraid. What kind of fear did he have? He had fear about his life, like you and I have. We know that. And for example, the situation that Achan, he was in a nation where historians say that it was from 3 to 5 million people, and they had one leader who was Moses, and Moses said that God is taking us to the promised land and he will take care of us, and he was telling about God's promises like you and I now, we are reading Bible. And the beginning of it, it's written by Moses. And Achan was thinking to himself, I and Moses, we have big difference. I'm just a simple man. He was raised in a Pharaoh's house. He was trained as a king. He met God, Moses. He was extraordinary person. He was weird person because he knew all 5 books, first books of the Bible, because he wrote them. And Achan, he didn't write any of them. Maybe he knew John 3:16 and 3:17, and sometimes he forgot those verses. And maybe he was in this kind of a church like now you are sitting on the 5th or 7th row, and then you look at me and you think, and what is with that man? He knows all Bible by heart, and that's over-exaggerated. I would like everyone to think that way, but it's not true. And then you think, and here I would like to say, I was thinking that Achan, he was afraid about Moses, that he will not get into the promised land. But I think he was not afraid about Moses, just the same as you are not afraid about me. You are not afraid that God will heal me. Of course he will. He will bless him, he will feed him, he will take him. But is he going to do it with you? Do you belong in this kind of a system? Do you know 1 John 4:18 and 3 John 4:17? We'll say there's only one chapter, you see? It's like that. So he had the simple fear. Is he good for this? And then he looked around his nation, and all of them were more active. And I will use this phrase that we use in nation. You look around and you see that others are more hungry, they are faster. And then you think, Are you able to go into this promised land? And among those 3 million families, will your family will get land? Will you go that far? Because all those 40 years they have seen death. It was on the right hand, on the left hand. And imagine that you are in a home group and there are 30 people. And all those. And for how long have you been in that home group? Let's say 10 years, and you are there for these all 10 years, and each month somebody was dying. And the leader of home group is saying that God is taking you and me, and our best days are ahead of us, and he's saying every week that this month this person died. And that thought that maybe you are the next one who has to die, maybe you are the next who is not destined to go there, and you can't remember those verses, you can't remember that all, and you can't understand all that depth. Maybe you're just living as an ordinary life. And you know, dear friends, by the way, I was thinking to myself, because he has been for 40 years in the desert with the Lord. He could just be fearful naturally, because they are speaking about this promised land. We were celebrating it when we had 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, we were still in the desert.
Happy birthday to you!
So for 40 years we have been in the desert, and they could start to get afraid. You know what is interesting? That fear, how they are lying. Nothing will lie to you more like your fear is lying. They're always lying. They are such good liars, like devil. But they sound so logic. And you know, it's interesting that in 1 Chronicles, there is a story about Jerusalem, and the king is, and the prophet comes and says that the next morning, kilo of bread will cost only 50 cents. Today, it costs you gold. 1 kilo of bread, it's 1 kilo of gold, but tomorrow it will be 50 cents. Prophet is saying this. And then king has advisor, and he was always whispering in the ear, and that centurion is saying, if God opens windows in the heaven, if God was stressed about it, and he would do something, it's not possible. And that sounds logically. Where was he all this time? Why are we here where we are? Why there is such famine? Hello. Look at the situation. And then Elisha is saying, thank you for your advice. Your eyes have seen it, but you will not taste this bread. And you know what? That there is a similar situation for Achan. He has this fear. Does it speak to me? But in our situation, in his time it was not written, but in our situation it's written 3.5 thousand years ago. I speak about Old Testament, it was 3.5 thousand years ago. And what was written 2,000 and 3,000 years ago, can it speak to me? I'm living in the 21st century, and I'm in Riga, sitting on the 8th row in the church, and I can't remember 3 verses by heart. And I still remember that only on Christmas time when I'm by the Christmas tree and I have to tell the verse. Or in the home group where they ask me. Of course, we don't have such people. But does it speak to me? And if you know about God a little bit, then you know that He wrote His word from perfect knowing
pieminekli vārdus.
He not just only wrote it,
dzīvē, bet viņš zināja tevi.
but he
Viņš
knew
zināja
you.
tavu situāciju, viņš
He
zināja,
knew
kā
your
tu izskatīsies,
situation,
viņš
he
zināja
knew how you
matu,
will
cik
look
tev
like,
uz
he
galvas,
knew
tu
how many
šogad,
hair
cik
you
būs
will have in
nākošais.
your head,
Viņš
and
zināja
how many
tavus
hair you will
gēnus,
have
viņš
next
zināja,
year.
cik tev ir
He
zobi,
knew
viņš zināja visu
your
tavus asins
DNA, he knew how many teeth you have and the
rezultātus, viņš visu
results
to
of your
zināja.
blood.
Un
He
no
knew
šīs
that,
savas zināšanas
and from
viņš
this
uzrakstīja tos
knowing,
vārdus, tie
this
attiecās
knowledge, he
viens pret
wrote these
vienu.
words, and they
Tev
speak
un
one to
man.
one to you and to me.
Un zināt ko?
And you know what?
Mums tas ir sevi pa laikam jāatgādina.
We have to remind ourselves about it,
Mēs tiešām varam uzticēties
that we
Dievam.
can really trust God.
Mēs tiešām varam paļauties uz
We can
Viņu.
really trust
Un
Him,
tas ir Ākāna
and that is Achan,
vārdi tev.
His
Pat, ja
words to
tev
you,
liekas,
even
ka
if it
tu
seems
esi
for you
ārpus konteksta,
that you are
ka
out
tu
of the context,
neesi iekļauts,
that
ka
you
tu
are not
neesi
included,
adekvāts,
that
tu
you are not
neesi tas
adequate,
cilvēks,
that you are
kurš
not that
sasniegs
person
to.
who will
Tu vari
reach
paņemt sev tos apsolījumus,
those heights,
un
but
tu
you can take those
vari
promises
būt
and
tas
you
cilvēks,
can be that
kas aizies
person
līdz galam.
who will go until the end.
Saki, es varu
Say,
būt
I
tas.
can be that
Un
person.
ziniet, vēl kas pa
And you know
iemeslu
what
bija,
else?
kāpēc
What other
Ākāns,
reason was for Achan
izdarīja šo savu
why he
liktenīgo
did
kļūdu, paņēma
this
šo sudraba
mistake
naudu, domādams par
when
savu
he took
ikdienu.
this money when
Viņam bija
he was thinking about
nepareizs
tomorrow?
priekšstats par Dievu.
He had different, wrong
Nepareizs priekšstats
understanding
par Dievu.
about God.
Ziniet, kā viņš
And you know what
domāja, ka
what
Dievs
he
ir?
thought, what
Dievs
God is
ir
like,
tas, kurš ņem.
that God is the one who
Dievs
is
ir tas, kurš
taking.
atnāk.
He is the one who is coming and taking.
Kad es biju jauns,
When I was young,
man arī bija līdzīgi.
I also had
Līdzīgi
similar
tāda
situation,
sajūta,
similar
ka
feelings.
tas ir mans
that
muskulis, tie
It's
ir
my
mani
muscle.
sviedri,
Those are
manas
that's
asins,
my sweat,
kas
my
nopelna
blood
to, kas,
that is
ko es esmu
earning
nopelnījis.
what
Un ka
I'm
Dievs
earning,
apsēžas
and
pie
that God
mana
is
garā
just
galva.
sitting to my big table.
Paklausties.
He's sitting at
Un
my
tad
big
kaut kur
table, and
jaunībā
then
mēs dzirdējām tāds
when I was
stāsts,
young,
ka Amerikā
we
esat
heard
bijuši
such
tie
situation that in
Jesus
America
people,
there were those
laiki.
Jesus
Atcerieties, bija
people
tādi
time.
hippiji.
There were
Viņi sanāca
hippies.
kopā, visi,
They came
viņiem
together,
nekas
all of
neinteresē,
them.
viņi
They
tikai
were
gribēja
not
strādāt,
worried
viņi
about
tikai
anything.
katru dienu sanāca
They were
kopā,
not working,
paņēma
but they were
ģitāru un
just
sāka
taking their guitars and they were singing.
Kumbaya. Un arī stundām ilgi dziedāt.
And then for
Visi
many
tur
hours
viņi
they
bērni
could sing
staigā
all
apkārt,
their,
bet viņi ne par
all their
ko
children. They were
neinteresējās,
not
viņi tikai
interested about
domāja par
anything. They just
debesīm,
thought
dziedāja
about
kumbaya, man.
heaven and they were
Tad viņiem
singing.
arī bija tas
And then they
ziedojuma
also
laiks,
had
bet
this time of
ziedojuma laikā
offering.
esot bijuši tā.
But then
Esot
during the
bijuši tā-
offering time,
tāda kastīte,
they had
uz
this
kuras
box
bijis
and it was
rakstīts,
written on the
tev
box,
ir
you
dod,
have
tev nav ņem.
give. If you don't have, take.
Jaunībā es dzirdēju šito, un es domāju, wow! Kas par ideju?
When I was
Kas
young and I
par
heard this idea, I thought,
ģeniālu
what an
ideju?
idea.
Tev ir dodi, tev
If you
nav
have,
ņem.
give.
Un
If you don't have, take.
Vajadzētu sēdināt cilvēks
imagine
tajā sektorā 6
In
miljonāri,
those,
un
in
šeit
that
visi
sector,
normāli cilvēki.
all millionaires
Miljonāri
are
ir, viņš
sitting.
dod, un tad mēs
And
visi
on the
garā
other
rinda,
sector,
mēs visi
those who
paņemam.
don't have, they
mums
sit there.
nav.
And then millionaires are giving, and then on
Es
the other side,
nebiju
people are just
skops.
taking just because they don't
Galīgi
have.
nebija. Taisn otrādi,
And I
Dievs bija
was not-
dziedinājis man no reumatisma. Un es to
I
apzinājos,
wanted
kā
to
es
give,
varēju, man dzīve
and
varēja
God
pilnīgi
blessed me from
citā
rheumatism,
virzienā.
and I realized that
Dievs
my
to
life
bija
is going
izdarījis.
into
Dievs
a
bija
different
daudz
direction,
manā dzīvē
and
darījis
God has
labas
been working
lietas.
in my
Un
life
es no
for,
viss sirds mīlēju Dievu.
and He did
Bet
so many
man
things,
bija
and I
tā
loved Him, but I
sajūta,
had
kā
that
arī
thought
Ākānam,
that Achan had,
ka man ir mana sieva,
that I have my wife.
mans bērns, jūs zināt, ko sievietes mājās dara, jā. Jā.
You
Divi
know what
bērni,
women
trešais vēl
are
puncīši,
doing
viņi
in-
apsēžās, iedzer kafiju no
in the
rīta,
house.
iziet ārā,
She has
jā,
two children.
pasaulē,
She's having one more in her belly. She's drinking coffee
Un tad
in the
tev
morning,
atstāja
and then
mazos uz 1 stundu, viņš
and
saka,
then
es aizskriešu no pāri
when
ielai
you come back,
nokārtot kaut
then
ko.
she
Un
gives
pēc
you
stundas tev jau
babies
mats stāv
for
gaisā,
1 hour, and
un
she's
tu
going
gribi
to do
skriet
something
uz savu
outside,
darbu
and then
atpūsties.
she's back,
Nē,
and
nē,
then
nē, man
after
ir-
1 hour
es
you are
nevaru
sick,
palikt, ja
and
man
you're,
man
I
tur
have
jau
to go away.
savā
I have to
Un tu
leave,
skrien
and
uz-
then you
uz
run
turieni,
away.
jo,
Just because
stundu ar saviem
1 hour
bērniem ir
with your
ļoti, ļoti
children,
grūti.
it's really hard.
Un tāda bija tā, iespējams, ka jums tā nav. Bet
Maybe it's
man
not like
tā
that
bija.
for you, but it was like
Lūk,
that for
un tu
me.
skaidro Dievam, man ir
And then
sieva
you
sēž pie galda, man ir
show-
divi
then you
bērni,
tell
trešais
your-
būs, mums vajag ratus mainīt, tie ir nodiluši, mums vajag
To
tur
the
vēl
Lord
visu
that
kaut ko, un tad parādīšu
we have these two babies, then we will have this third baby. We will need diapers. We will need pushchairs, and
jāmaksā par elektrību, tev
then
jāmaksā
you
par
have to
benzīnu,
pay for
tev jāmaksā
electricity,
par-
for benzene, for
nodokļu, kam vēl jāmaksā?
taxes. What else?
Par televīziju.
For TV,
Toreiz bija
no.
pa brīvu televīziju.
That time TV was for
Nu,
free.
viss vēl jāēd.
And then you had to eat. And then you think that big table that you with your own blood and sweat you have to earn, then God comes. And he says, and you know, it's not that I didn't want to give, but I just had this feeling. And remember, there was 1 month. We were 3. And then when one was sick, then we were dividing his salary. So if somebody was sick, then that money was more that I earned. And I was giving, I was tiring, and then we did it since we were young. But then I wanted to say to the Lord that just use my money wisely. But then I thought that next month I will not be able to have this much money. I had feeling that he's sitting at my table and we are in the desert. And you know what? I didn't think that since I accepted Jesus as my Lord, and I was speaking about Aachen, and I'm in the desert, I'm not slave anymore, because I had worse time. When I had to build a city, I couldn't sit when I want, I couldn't sleep when I want, I couldn't eat when I wanted to eat. I was not in the desert, I was in Egypt when they told me to build or to kill my children. I'm speaking about that case of Aachen, but now you are in the desert. You are in the desert. But there is this step even more. The one who was slave, he didn't have any rights, but now who took him out of the slavery, who gave this cloud. When it was so hot, he was always walking in the shadow. It was not some person who was having the shadow for him, but God was feeding them for many years, and he was giving them clothes in Egypt. Actually, in this case of Aachen, he was sitting at the table, God's table, not that God was sitting at his table. And you know what? That this feeling or this thought about it, that God is sitting at my table, this wrong conception about God, it influences person. It influences what is he believing. And I think it was 2 Peter, 1st chapter, verse 3, that he has given us everything to serve. And it's not stopping there. He's giving power, he's given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and goodness. And you know that conception about God, it influences how you serve and how you live. Your conception about God, it influences your faith. And Jesus told us that he cannot take us further than our faith. He said, let it happen to you like you believe. And so I was thinking what my muscles and my faith and my sweat, my blood can help me to earn. And that is influencing how I can have victory in this world. When I changed this conception that I'm sitting at his table, that he's sitting at my table, that changed everything. And then I think to myself, and I remember those names that David said, and David said his conception was totally different. You can see that in 1 Chronicles 29, and that verse number 11 and 12, like David was saying that the man by his heart, his conception about God, yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power, and the glory and the majesty and the splendor, for everything in heaven and in earth is yours. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. And look at the verse number 12. Wealth and honor come from you. You are the ruler of all things. In your hands are strength and power to exalt and give strength to all. Wow. Wealth and honor come from you. What is your conception about your God? What is He like? Is He sitting at your long table where you both are sharing those 2 raisins for 5 people and He also wants a bite? Or do you see God who is giving richly? He is giving wealth and honor. He wants to bring wealth and honor into your life. I think that here there is contradiction. Which conception are you choosing? The Achan's conception, the one mistaken, or David's conception? And I decided that from all heart I see my Lord as generous, wonderful God. And He wants to give you wealth and honor. And then I think, Vilni, have you read that Jesus asked one man to sell everything and follow Jesus? I have heard that pastors are preaching this. Leave everything. Jesus only once, for one person, He said these words, because He had that problem only once. See, I show the right finger. He said it only once to one man. Remember that from one verse you cannot make a teaching. Only once. But somewhere else He said, if you are not loving me more than your mother and father and your children and your wife and so on, then you cannot be my disciple. Yes, He said so. But He also said, love your wife like Christ loved the church. So what is He speaking about? He was speaking about love, that He is the most important to you. You love Him more than anything. And that puts everything in the right order. It brings harmony in your life. He didn't want to make you naked and poor. And every time when you read Bible, if you see that Jesus finds a holy poor person, then He works with this person and he becomes rich because God is generous God.
Hallelujah!
And you know that once I had this situation with one of my granddaughters, I will not tell their name because that becomes a sensitive topic. And she came from kindergarten, I don't remember when, but she had this, she had candies. I'm not a fan of candies, but I think it's not healthy because there are 2 spoons of sugar and a drop of synthetic taste. And she had few of them, and then I thought she will just eat all of them, and what will happen with her little teeth? And I had this picture in front of me, and I thought, how should I set her free from these candies? Because she was holding those candies in her hand, and she was so proud of them. And I had this evil plan. I asked, will you give one to your grandfather? I wanted to take all of them. I would just throw them away in the recycle bin. But for this child, you know, that transformation in her hand, she was so happy she was showing those candies. And then she had some consequences. Conclusion that if you have candies, don't show them. As we sometimes think about God, when you have bigger salary, it's like, don't take your salary with you. What if they will say, ask Holy Spirit how much should you offer, and always by law He always says, give everything. And then I understood that sometimes we feel like that when God speaks to us, when He wants something from us. It's not because He wants to see us naked or He wants to live from from our money, but He is the one who is giving us wealth and honor. My conception is that you are a generous Father. You are a generous Father. Thank you. Father, if something is not going with this conception, then I want to go together with this conception. And let's look at another verse and where Jesus speaks about it. He said, if you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children. If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children. If I say, sometimes I use Normans. Imagine if I now say to Normans, you are so evil. You are still giving something to your children, right? For example. And then Normans would be mad at me because he is an excellent father, he has excellent wife and excellent mom next to him. But if God is saying this, if God is saying this about you and me, that you are evil and you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more? And that is that you are taking care of your children. Do you want them to have good clothing and you want everything to be good for them, that they are fed? Why do you think that God is so stressed? How to say this? The one who sees what is good to eat and what is bad to eat. Dietologist. And when you want this snack, she says no. You want this, then it's just only green stuff. He says you have to become vegan because God is vegan, and he says no, don't touch this, you don't need this. Just breathe the air and worship me. Are you doing this with your children? Is it like that? For a short moment, when he's happy, you're ready to go to the other side of the city to just get what he wants. And sometimes you say no to your desires because he wants this phone or he wants to go somewhere. And you are just, and usually you buy what you want for yourselves, right? Why do you think that God is such a nerd that he doesn't have any emotions? He says, you don't need this, you don't need this, just serve, fast, read, pray. And this is what he tells us here, that do you see God as generous friend who is happy for you, that he's happy to see how you're smiling, that you are traveling, that he's looking at the sun, he's happy that you are relaxing, that you have to count how many cents you have to for you to pay for the bread. He is happy for it. If you being evil, said the person next to you, say God said that you are evil, comparing to him. Your concept about him, it influences your faith. You can't receive things for life if your concept about God is like this. If your concept about God is that he is boring and stressful and a vegan dietologist, he says you don't need this, you don't need this. But if you see that God is generous, nice friend, Father, he called himself Father, Father, I really want this. You know, these words that those words go through Father's heart. Yeah, I know, I don't have time, but I really want it. And in parents' soul, something starts. I think that Father, that God, he is so human-like. He understands us so much, and Jesus is next to him. Remember who is protecting us. Jesus was a man, and he remembers how it is for people. He is not saying only that he is righteous, but give him that car, he says. Maybe I didn't read this in the Bible. Just take that car. I want you to have good car. You are sitting at the table, at God's table. You're not a slave anymore. And he said one good thing, and maybe now you are not in the promised land, but that is not his fault, because he is taking you to the promised land. In front of you, you have the promised land, and he wrote that because he knew you, you belong there, you are the right one, take that for you, and be in there and trust God for the finances. And I'll finish with a verse from Luke 16, where Jesus tells about a parable, and he speaks about you and me. He said that there was one rich man, and this one rich man who had a steward, and he was taking care of all, and he's saying that everything that you have, it's not because we earned it. Everything that you have achieved and you thought that that's your sweat, your blood, that you were fighting for it. And you know that when I look back at my life, and then I have to realize that yes, I was serious about those challenges that were in my life. But I was not successful because of myself. There was somebody that I didn't see, and maybe I was not controlled by it. How to say, I couldn't control how he did that, but there was always somebody who was behind me who unlocked it, who open the right thing at the right time. And I would like to say that your achievements are not yours. Don't be so narrow-minded that everything that you have achieved. It's not like that. Because in this world there is this crazy dog who's walking around, and God has protected you from that. And he took you out from the desert, and he took you out from slavery. He is taking you to the promised land. And today, if your conception about God is that he is good, generous Father, then your hand will not shake when you will see that money, because you know that you are already sitting at his table. And if you are sitting at his table, when it doesn't depend on your strength, then you're not thinking, can you make this record next month? Of course you will. You will. I remember natural care of father for his children. I wanted them to be good, successful in their lives. And God once told me, just relax a little bit. Were you so good at school? Were you eating perfectly? Yes, but I want them it for them. And he told me that they will go further than you. They will do more. They will travel more. They'll have more money. They will tell later, 30 or 40 years later, that what David will tell. My father started it, and we built that all. God's grace will be with them. But if you see now what you have to do for children, that you have to do everything, that you have to plan everything, maybe God is calling you. Relax. You are sitting at his table, and if you are sitting at his table, then he is the one who is providing everything. He is the one who gives provision. And of course you have to be serious about your life, but you don't have to be afraid, because fear is not your advisor anymore. You should say to this king should say to fear, this is because of you why we are here. Remember when this advisor told the king, if God would be stressed, he would not do it. Then you can tell to this advisor, don't. If fear is supporting you, fear about tomorrow, or can you do it, or if you will be successful, or among these 3 million, will you get the part of your success, then you just have to cast them out, because no one can do it. they have been lying to you all your life. What would you do with a friend who has been lying to you all life? What would you do? You would block him on the Facebook, right? You would delete him from your contacts. This is not gonna go like this because all life you have been lying to me. Then you just cast them out. Especially in God's things, you can trust Him. Because Ahan is saying this to you. And then he says, the king and the steward, and he says, the one who will be trusted with a little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. And he's speaking about money. And Ahan, here his problem started. He said, God, I'm poor, I can't, I'm not confident about myself, I'll take it. He took from God when it came, and there was opportunity to give, he took. And Jesus says that it starts with this. That's the beginning of your believer's life, when you trust God with your money, about your money. If you say that I trust in Him, but you don't trust in Him about your finances, because you're giving money everywhere, then you come to God, and then your life is closed. That's not right. He says, actually, you can't believe about the great things just because you are not trusting Him in little things. And people are saying that I trust God, but about money, they are holding this hand, and I'm not going to give it to God. They can't trust money to God. And here he says, you can't believe about greater things. And Ahan, that was the root of his all problems. Actually, when you came and accepted Jesus as your Savior, the first one should be about salvation, the second about baptism, and the third, trusting God about finances. That's the beginning. That's the beginning. If you trust Him in little things, if you can lift 1 kilo, then you can lift more. If you can't lift 10, why are you ordering 50 or 100 if you can't even lift 1 kilo? And that one little thing is just to trust Him in finances. Because you are eating from His table. You are sitting at His table because He is your generous and good Father, and He is happy that you are prospering.